There's your cue. All right, everybody, welcome to Ragin' With. We've got a special guest this evening, Xing Xin. I always trip over your name, Xing. I don't know why. Could be the X's. I don't know. But hey, this is episode 39, and we've got a little bit of an intro, and we'll be right back to chat with him for a bit. Talk about Ximphonic Versus and all that's going on in his world and the creative journey. Here we go.
Raging.
All right, everybody, welcome to Raging With. We've got Xing Xin tonight. He's a very busy man, and let me say something real quick here before we do anything. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this out. We are simulcasting to Geek Insider, Comics in More New Jersey, Indie Volt, and Raging. Hit the button. I'm going to drop the card while we're doing that and say hello. How are you?
Good. How are y'all?
Doing very good. You have been super, super busy. I know that you are just barely in your new office. So, on top of everything that you're doing, and we'll talk about that, you moved.
Yes. Cross country. To New
That's a
Jersey.
big move. Big move.
Yeah. It was.
Mhm.
A lot of pieces. It took so many things. Yeah. So moving is it's such a complicated thing, but thankfully that part is over, and I'm where I'm supposed to be. So happy about that.
And while you were trying to basically put your life in boxes, move across country, and get settled in, you've still been working your
Yeah.
tail off.
In ways that I could. Once all my equipment was packed up, the only thing I could do was like work on the scripts on my phone and like doodle art and draw on paper until I got all of my stuff back, where I could start working again. But it actually was kind of nice to have like a little time off because I normally spend so much time just it, you know the process is complicated and long, and it just takes forever. So it's been, yeah, it's been kind of just one of those things.
Mhm. We love talking about the creative journey, and you have been doing this for quite a while. But I want to talk to the young Jing, the one who was kind of looking at options in life. And then at what point did you go, yeah, I want to do this? I want to do comic books. I want to do graphic novels. I want to do art.
Um, I've actually, I mean, as far back as I can remember, I've just always enjoyed um, fantasy and literature. Growing up, I wasn't like the kid playing sports and playing football and basketball, and I was reading, drawing, um, and I've wanted to do this my whole life in the sense of I just wanted to I just wanted to tell a good story and hope that someone would like it. And there were a lot of things I wanted to pursue, but growing up, grew up really poor, where going to school was not really a viable option, and uh, not that life was unhappy. Life was, it was very good, but just not the resources to a lot of the things, especially uh, technology wasn't the way it is now. So there were so many things that you were really limited on what you could do, the things you could gain access to, because if you didn't have if you didn't have that stuff, I mean, what could you do? Except try to draw and work on it. And but yeah, I mean, I've pretty much spent my whole life wanting to do this. When I was in fourth, fifth grade, I used to draw the images and then fold them and staple them together a little bit like a comics book, and it'd be like 5 and 6 pages, and then I remember being able to print them off of a printer and just still staple them together, not in the 4 by 4 format at that point, but just page after page. But it's been a lifelong just thing that I don't know. It's just been a part of me as long as I can remember.
I know from my own experience, I wanted to sing. I actually enjoyed drawing when I was younger, but that creative journey for me, um, being in a family that didn't do that, they didn't know what to do with me, right? Did you kind of have that same thing? What, like, hey, I really want to do this. I'm good at it. This is a dream of mine. And they're like, yeah, yeah. How are you going to pay the bills?
Yeah, and the the only person who like was 100% behind my venture was my father. He always encouraged me to keep going that way, and the rest of my family, it took a long time for them to come around to it. Now they see it, they realize the things that I'm doing, and it's funny because the things I'm doing now are the things I was doing almost 30 years ago. It just, yeah, the refinement's very, very different, but it's still, it's still these same characters, and I still have, the very first drawing I did of Adonis in 1995. I still have that on, that almost like tan, large tan like drawing paper that you used to get, and that's what it's on.
Wow. So 30 years of development. And of course, we see your books, we see your website. Uh, we know that a TV series is coming, an animated series and everything. And all of a sudden, it's like your name's going to be everywhere. People are like, oh, he's an overnight success. No.
No, there is no, and it's still. I mean, every day is a challenge to to do to do this kind of work. It doesn't just happen. And especially comics have changed so much over the past 10, 20 years, um, and you know Symphonic Versus is it's not a Western style book by any means, and it took a very long time to develop that art style, but it was I couldn't get anybody to support it because it was so different, and yet I was going to. I remember going to cons, selling black and white copies of the book, and having people like Jason Martin tell me that this is how you become the next big thing. This is how you become these things, and not that I'm looking at this like, oh, I want to be this big thing. I'm just a guy who's just trying to tell a story and just share it with people. But um, it's still there are still the everyday struggles that they don't see, and they're I I don't really like I hate to say like use the word click, but it's true. There are a lot of them, especially on social media, and if you don't fall into those trenches of that, you know, you're you have to really fight and claw to get support and to get people to believe in what you're doing. And I've been doing this a long time, longer than some of these people have been alive. Um, and I think the difference though is you attain something different from years of struggle that you can't get from throwing something together and putting it on Kickstarter and having 200 and 300 of your friends throw money at it. And you know yeah, people do that, that's fine, but um, there's something that you gain from loss, from defeat, from setback after setback. And I mean, you know, Ximphonic Versus, it was rejected 157 times. And that is that's the actual number, 157 times. 40 of those rejections came from image alone. Um, so it really, you know, uh, no one, no one wanted to touch it because it was different. But the thing that I'm most appreciative of is, despite that, you know, I get messages from readers from all over the world. You know, Germany, France, Canada, Ireland, England, Mexico, all over the United States, Japan, Singapore, all these places. And when you get messages where people are telling you that they have cried, that it's given them great introspective, that it has, hit them in different levels that they didn't think, and they continue to come back and they continue to be supportive. Um, it, it's really, that in itself is an amazing experience because you know, this will always be my story. These will always be my characters, but it's not because I've done something particularly special. It's just because people have stopped and seen it and then decided, you know what, I'm gonna spend time and invest in it to see what it is. And then you share that experience with them, and it's like when you start affecting people that way, where it's hitting them like that, that's that's what you want. Um, and that's what you hope for. You hope that someone will say, "Hey, I liked it," not just because you know someone said, "Oh yeah, it looks great. We're all buddies here, and we're all pumping each other up," but to really take something that is really impacting people, and to the point now where the very many of the very companies who didn't want to give me the opportunity um, have now reached out and had very kind things to say about my work, and now it's garnered the attention of Santa Monica Studio and Blizzard Entertainment, from Sony, from Square Enix, from Mercury Steam, from Konami, and so I take those things and put them really into perspective and say, um, you know, what a what a humbling experience that is. You've got, I mean, just take Santa Monica Studio. Look what they've done with God of War. Look how many lives they touch, and yet they saw what I was doing and were so impressed, but kind enough to tell me, hey, you know what, this and this and this, and this is what we think about it. And that is that's a powerful thing, and it really is. And I think what's important is that no matter no matter what happens, if you know what you're after, you know the vision that you have to be relentless and you have to pursue it without hesitation. There can't be you can't be afraid. you have to take that plunge and just go and go and go, and there's going to be tons of obstacles. There's going to be so many things that you'll face because it's easy to say, here is this interpretation of this, and here is this interpretation of that. Especially in a genre where superheroes are really like the main, bloodline for these things, and so many people come up with their own superheroes, and that's great. The problem I think you run into is that it becomes too easy for people to say, I'll just take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it's not really developed. It's just like, oh, I just kind of stuck these things together, and there we go, and it's up there, and then they want everybody to say, oh, it's so great and it's so fantastic and it's blah blah blah. And I just don't think that that's. I think that's what happens when there's a lack of creative experience and a lack of experience in general. Um, that's what it creates is those kinds of things.
Having had Prince Adonis in your life for that long, he's got to be like a brother, a friend, a family member. When did Ximphonic Versus what was the genesis of that? How did that pop into your head where you decided, "Oh, I need to take a minute and start jotting down some notes here." Was it the story? Was it a dream? Was it inspiration from something that you've seen?
So big fan of, like I said, fantasy, Lord of the Rings. Professor Tolkien's genius still in his ways. I think a lot of what it is I I always remember like writing writing my own stories, and you look at these great heroes from Greek and Roman mythology, and um, I remember we had to watch it was the old version of the Odyssey, um, with Odysseus and uh, all of these things, and it was in the year I remember specifically. It was 1994. At the time, I was working on a series that was about werewolves, and then and then I was in the next semester. I had chemistry, and we started. The first day, started going over the periodic table, and the teacher mentioned this compound vanadium, and I was like, well, that's very interesting. It was something about it had this ring to it, and I liked it, and so I had jotted that down, um, and then I started working on the story, and originally Symphonic Verses in its original conception, it was called Destiny, and it was about these two twins that were brother and sister. Um, now, some of those aspects are still very much part of the story, but that was the birth of it. That's how it came to life that way. Was off of that, and then before I knew it, weeks went by, and months went by, and then years and years and years went by, and I mean literally decades of my life, to where this world existed. It was like it had become real. It had become real to me in the sense that I knew every inch of it. I knew how it looked, how it functioned, and symphonic verses. It takes place on it's not an Earth. It's another world called Levi Summonos V, and Levi Summonos V. That means to be under the influence of sleep. So you are existing right between being awake and the twilight of falling into a dream realm. And it exists right between those two spots. And so really the idea is that when someone opens the book for the first time, or they see the pages, it's as if that sleep has fallen over them, and now you're in this world that exists between these dimensions, and so it really thrives on all of these ideas that we know, and so um, like you said, having Prince Adonis be so, and what I love when I hear people say that, like what you said, because see, when people say things that you write, when other people say it, see, that means it's alive with power. It's not just me. Now other people they believe it because they say it, and so that that is always an experience. I always love to hear that because it means that people have taken the time to to make the prince part of their life that way, and all the characters are aspects of my life, my experience, things that I've gone through, just so many things, and so much of the story is based around like operatic and orchestral and these literally symphonic verses that the title in itself is like a play on words because it really is about um, having to make these two decisions, but it also in the Queen's English like verses has in the musical reference verse rhapsoditis, this interweaving of themes, but yet also verses as in this combative aspect against each other, and the symphonic part is that's like Cyrillic with its spelling with an X instead of an S, and so even the titles, like when you look at the titles for the books, like Volume One, it's called Oratorio, a crescendo waltz of antipathy, and the reference for that is that oratorio is when it's like vera fortissimus when something is moving along, and then this this antipathy, this great hatred, disdain for something, but yet it's put in this really um, baroque and elegant manner, and that's really how it's set up, and their world it's so vast that it's like okay, to put it into perspective, we know that in our immediate solar system, Jupiter is the largest of the 9 planets that we have right here. Their world is roughly 3,000 times larger than Jupiter. So you can imagine the mass of this world, and just how vast it really is. And so symphonic verses is just one part of these many other stories that I've written, but that's the one that I decided to start with. But there are all these other tales that tie into uh, the story, and things cross over generationally from bloodlines, from events that happened, artifacts, weapons, things that caused great tragedies and kind of cataclysmic outcomes, and then it may be decades, centuries later, but then you see the result of that with other characters, with other things that are going on, and so they've got their own languages. There's an ecosystem. They have their own vegetation, currency. So there's all this stuff that is there, and Adonis is integral to it, but he's a small part of this much larger picture. But that's just the story. I just chose to focus on that one because you can't do everything at once. That's not possible. Be
No
nice,
kidding.
but
Yeah, and I appreciate that connection that you had with music, because music touches everybody. Music is something that is global, It cuts across age, it cuts across culture, and and in music there is that dissonance and resolution. There's a story behind it. There's an arc. So that gave me goosebumps when you said that. I was like, wow, so cool. Because it does. Music moves us. And so, I mean, kind of like random question off the cuff, but like, do you listen to music as you are writing, or do you need kind of silence to focus on what you're doing?
Um, I tend to listen to a lot of music when I'm drawing, but as I think about, like you said, music moves us. That's what it does. It affects every fiber of our being, and so I like to listen to. I have favorite pieces that I really enjoy, or really great sets that are put together, and um, not just orchestral, not just classical, not just rock, not so much like into rap and things like that, but the music behind it, the beats, I can appreciate that because that's the heartbeat of what the message they're conveying. And when you really stop to listen to a song and not the words. Like if you get a version of it that doesn't have lyrics, you start to hear all these layered details that they put into the music that sometimes people are not aware of, but it does things to us on a subconscious level that's really beautiful. So it and even in the story, um, like one of the main villains. Her name is she's the Empress of the Crystallis Kingdom, but her name is Harpsichord Harpsis Stradivarian Valgum, and Harpsichord Harpsis lives in what is called the Palace of Baroque Harps, and it is literally a palace that sits upside down. Um, Before a waterfall, and there's a top part, but the top part is an illusion. The real palace is the one that's upside down. The structure is upside down, but inside the architecture is right side up. And so really um, it's really like this strange and enamoring like way that she lives. But then if you look at her word bubbles in the book are music notes. You can actually see the bass clef and the treble clef, and you see the bars, and then there's the bubble. So it's almost as if everything she's saying, she is singing, and it's with this really great despair and this great agony in which she does it, and she she's not the main villain. The main villain people will finally get to see a glimpse of in Volume Three, and they'll get to see kind of what he looks like. But in Volume One, he's talked about, uh, and then in Volume Two, he's talked about some more. But no one sees him, no one knows his name, and it's like it's one of those things. It's layered in there very meticulously, so that when you do get to him and you do realize what's really happening behind the scenes, there's all these other things going on, and that's just like the little drop of water on the mountainside, but that soon starts to become this, you know, this enormous, all-consuming, um, like a volcano that is in reverse, and that's what starts to happen with him, and this, his darkness has there's no end to his evil. There's no end to his the things that he wants to do, and and it puts everyone in this really weird position, especially Adonis, because Adonis is he's a prince. He should be the king, but he's not. But that's for a specific reason, and and that's why he chooses to stay as a prince. But his lineage, his line, he is a Latrechulus, and the Latraculus bloodline goes back all the way to the original founding of their world when the dragons brought everything to life. And the king of the dragons is where they trace their lineage, the root to their lineage. It goes all the way back there. And so their houses are in death more divine than those of the living because of where they come from, because of the great houses and the great blood that make up who they are. And so um, there's just there's all this stuff that's going on in the series, and um, it's not Symphonic Versus is not what it appears to be on the surface. It really isn't. It's something else. But that's why I don't show it publicly, because I don't want to take that away from readers. I want them to see that and experience that for the first time on their own. It's like when you go to a movie, you don't want someone to, who went in before you to come out and say, "Oh man, at the end I couldn't believe that happened." How devastating would that be? I mean, it ruins the whole experience. But if you see it with fresh eyes, and then it's like, "Oh, wait, that this is what it's about. This is what's happening." Then I think it takes a different form, and it has a far greater effect on us and our interpretation of it.
Certainly, because we take that and we get to chew on it a bit. And when the
Mm-hmm.
story is really good, we don't want it to end. It's like I have the habit of kind of going back and rereading the last chapter or something because I don't want to put it down.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jing, we're at the 30-minute mark. We're going to take a little bit of a break and we're going to be right back. For everybody who's tuning in, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We are simulcasting to Geek Insider Comics in More New Jersey, Indie Vault, as well as RAGIN AVC. Make sure that you hit that button and share it out with your friends. We are talking to Xing Xin, episode 39, and we'll be right back after this. Hey there, this is Meredith Lochran with RAGIN, and I wanted to let you know that we encourage and promote independent creators and their projects through organic interaction, consultations, and more. Visit Nita and me at RAGINAVC.com for details and contact information. Hit the button. And for all you comic fans and creators, make sure that you go to Gemini Comic Supply and use the coupon code VOLT10 to save 10% on your Gemini mailer shopping spree there. That's right. They've got more than Gemini comic mailers. They've got other things too. So for a 10% discount on those Gemini mailers and whatever else you're shopping at for, you know what I mean. Use coupon code VOLT10. It's courtesy of Indie Volt. Yeah, it's been a long night. Give me a break, Nita. I see you laughing at me. Hey, and also we are talking to Xing Xin for Ximphonic Versus. Make sure that you head over to the website and hashtag Ximphonic Versus on Twitter as well. He's got a shop there. He's got books available. They often sell out. You've got the Prelude that you can download for free and get an introduction into the world. And then, of course, the third book, Jing, is on pre-order.
Yes, it is. Volume 3 is on pre-order, and I'm working on it. It's like a little over halfway done. Um, but the Prelude is free, and I didn't know did I didn't know if y'all had a chance to download it.
Oh, I have.
Oh, you
Yeah, like I'm just like at the end there. It's like I just want to see the Glass Kingdom, man.
so it's funny in the Glass Kingdom is a that's the last great power of the East, and in their Elsion uh, dialect, which is known as Viratum, the Glass Kingdom is actually called Glacius Glendathios. That's how they say it in their own tongue. Um, but the Glass Kingdom is such a it has such a pivotal significance to the story. And in the prelude, you see Adonis and Concerto having this conversation with each other. Concerto is Adonis's mentor. She's his master, really. But she comes from a different house. So the house of Latreculus sits up here, and it's like line of nobility. And then you have what's called the Lucium Duodecim, which makes reference to 12 lights or these 12 flames. Those were the original 12 kingdoms, and each of those smaller powers once existed and thrived on their own with great supremacy in their own right, but they made the next level of power that stood and helped to hold up the most divine house, which is the Latreculus. The problem is that these great celestial swords of power that the dragons handed down over the centuries, people would wield them, they would use them, but often their wielder was slain by the sword's power. Because it took the rarest soul that could awaken them for great good or for great evil. The problem is that the swords themselves are sentient, and many people, uh, these dynastic powers who were trying to vie for supremacy, wanted to use them by force. But the swords have to allow you to wield their power. Now, the difference is that some houses, the swords did allow the wielder to use them. Then you had like Adonis, where because of the line he comes from, the swords were blessed on to their lineage. So although he can call upon them whenever he wants, he always asks the sword, can he wield their divine power? And they're not just swords of power, they're of hope, of love, of darkness, of remembrance, of time. There's 15 classical orders. The greatest order of them is what's known as acromantia, and that's where the most powerful swords come from for that particular set. But then you have sets of swords that are augmented with fire, with lightning, with water. It just varies on what it's being used for. Various mythical creatures. So there are many, 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 many swords that exist in the world, but there are three that are the greatest, and no one knows what happened to them. And so there's this thing, more in volume two. I can't say more than that because I don't want to. I'm like, no, no, I
Read
don't
the
break that
book.
rule. Yeah, I'm like people have to read it. But Nita, you saw the prelude. So what did you? I know it's only a few pages, but what did you think?
So far, I'm hooked. I want volume one for certain. Like it's like the art is phenomenal. Okay, this is crazy, but what intrigued me the most was your speech bubbles. Like seriously, I like the fact that Prince Adonis had separate speech bubbles than the other characters. So it had me wonder. And now that you've brought up, you have other characters with some, that their speech bubbles are different too. I like that because even when they're speaking off page, you're not trying to guess who's talking. Um, and then of course I have like a bazillion questions, like about the tier. Is that a permanent? Is that something that's always there? Uh, the symbolism behind the different little. Uh, I don't know. I don't want to. I want people to read it. um.
Okay. Can you give us a little bit of insight into the tier?
Yes. So that is two things. It is a symbol of her stature as a countess.
Okay.
Um, that tear it's like a diamond liquid. Um, but when you touch it, it's almost like how you can put, if you had it in a cup, the way you could put metal objects on top of Mercury. And
Oh, okay.
it is a similar substance in that way, but that has another purpose. Yes, it shows her position as a countess, but it also serves as a fashion statement. But there is also power in that. And so there are times where in the series you'll see her touch that, and if she touches that, there are things that she can then do after she's taken a teardrop off of it that she can
Nice.
then manipulate. But in volume three, you'll actually get to see some of that, and in volume two, you actually see some of what her and Adonis are capable of when he has what is known as a divine phantom power that is beholden to his blood lineage. It from
And
father
is
to
that
son.
symbiotic from the lightning? Like,
No, so that's a different power.
okay.
So his phantom power is one thing. The the lightning in his hair and his eyes, that is because of his. Hmm, there are
Okay,
things
don't.
I
Okay. Okay,
it,
I got you.
well, and what I can say is that so there's this being in their world named Vero, and um, Vero is the empress of death and beauty and agony, and it's said that you know whoever dreams upon oblivion has been kissed by her you know her touch of immortality, and so Adonis having lightning in his hair and his eyes, he has a very rare ability that he shares with another character, which is the female lead, which is Lady Sapphirose. They both are able to behold celestial light. Barrow's brush with him caused him to be born where he had lightning running through his hair and his eyes. He was just born that way because of what she like blessed onto him. Now Sapphirose, hers works in a different way, but the way their powers work together is that no matter where they're at, if they see one another, it looks like they are standing on water at nighttime with three moons behind them. So they always appear to one another to be in this other realm, even though they are a place where everyone else is, but they see each other in a very different light. And this ability to behold celestial light with Adonis, it's more so of this thing that it can lead you somewhere that you don't want to be. It's it's dangerous, really. It's a very dangerous power. Um, hers allows her to do some other things, um, but they're it's not just there. You know, sometimes people just they make things because oh it looks cool, so I want to make it like this. Everything that you see has a significance to it. Like okay, Nina, you know the scene where they're sitting in the car and you see the driver who's talking to them.
The
His
dude
name is
that's like completely armored up.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's Kawaii guy. Now Kawaii guy, if you look at his shoulder pad, you see a woman's face
on
and
both
it's
sides.
red.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's red. That is Scarlet Orcsai, who is the empress of the Orcsai dynasty, which is she's one of the 12 lords from the Lucium Duodecim that sits underneath Adonis's kingdom, because all the other kingdoms are destroyed. So the stewards that are left, each of them are the last descendant from one of the original 12 kingdoms. So that's her, and that's where Concerto comes from. That's why her armor is red with black and gold, and that's why Kowegi's armor is black and red, because black and red are the colors of the Orcsai dynasty. That's how it's set up. Interestingly enough, though, Adonis actually has depressions of her on a pair of boots that he wears as well. So all these things are there are so and there are so many things that I could just say, but that it again, I don't want to take that away from readers. I want people to experience that, but that's just like a very small portion of what's the layers of things that are there.
I wanted to speak about those layers because with your storyline, so many layers, so many worlds coming together, so many things that complement each other. And then your artwork, so many layers, so many details. I mean, if there were no words, I could probably dive into this world that you've created, um,
And still be intrigued.
and look
Right.
at it every day and find something new.
Very
Um,
kind.
how in the world do you find the time and this vision, because you are literally creating new worlds? Um,
Worlds, languages.
yeah, I mean, that is, does that ever feel too big? Like, where the heck is this going, and what have I done? And like, I am just a mere mortal here. Do you ever have you ever had those moments?
um, no, I mean I'm always I feel like I don't have so this is my main work. Like this is what I just do. I don't have secular. This is my job. This is what I do 24/7. Um, I just always feel like I don't have enough time in life to expand on all these things the way that I would like to, even more, because I literally have volumes and volumes of this world written, of these characters, of these dynasties, of all of these things. And so it it really is. I think that harkens back to that. You you have to really be committed to something, and you have to say, I'm not trying to make this because I'm trying to be popular and do this and that. You're saying, what can I do to write and share this story in a way that you hope that people will enjoy it, and that they'll be moved by these things. And so when I look at this world, there are so many things that oh that I wish I could just blurt out loud to just show people and let them see. Um, but I don't, because again, I want them to experience those things for themselves. But as you look at as you look at it, and the designs, everything has to be designed the right way and a particular way. There is no, just putting this here and this here. The colors, the patterns, the fabrics, everything has a particular and reason that it's there, and it looks the way it does, and it sounds the way it does, and all of these things. And it's like right now, so I've been packing up books. I'm waiting for the volume 2 to get shipped here, the next printing of that, which hopefully should be here in about a week and a half. But I actually have been packing up. So this is one of the um, limited. This is like one of the covers for Volume 1. Now this is Lady Sapphirose. Now this is the elegant moon flower cover, and it's written in Chinese. But all the books, as you see, they're magazine size, and they come with. Um, they actually have custom backing boards that are black instead of like a normal comic book backing board, which is like the acid-free paper. So these all come this way, and when they're packaged, when people order them, when you order Volume 1, Um, First of all, the quality that you see on the cover, that is what you get panel by panel, page by page through the whole book. Volume 1 is 148 pages. It has the Volume 2 prelude in print here, which is the only place that you can get it. It comes with a two 8 by 11 posters. It comes with a certificate of authenticity, and it comes with a 5 by 5 poster and the soundtrack as a digital download. So all of that is available. Plus, you get the custom backing board, and each book actually comes in a black corrugated box, and the
Wow.
box. This is the blank one. The logo for Symphonic Verses will actually be here, in a 9 by 6 image, and so um, long before most people now they do like these box sets and these things like that. I can honestly tell you, I was doing that before anybody back in 2000, I want to say 2009, I went to a show and I took my first box set that I was, and no one, and they sold out in a day. The first day they were gone because people were like, there are no, I've not seen that before. And my thing is, I wanted to give people something the way you get like collectible video games and these collector sets. And I always thought, why couldn't books be done the same way? And I didn't see anyone doing it. And then in 2012, I went to the first Denver Comic Con because that's where I was living. Had bigger boxes, came with bigger things, more in it. Those sold out the first day, and so this is something I've always been doing things the way I think that they should be done, and not the way everyone. Sometimes people are just content to say, "Oh, here's my book. I drew it. Buy it. Tell me it's great." Blah blah blah. That's not what I do. I I like to talk to people. I like to get them thinking about what they think is going on and what's happening in this story and what's the significance of these things that are happening and why they're like that. And so when when readers get things, I want them to have an experience, not just yeah, the books are $25, but for the $25 you get you know magazine size 148 pages, two 8 by 11 posters, a certificate of authenticity, an 8 by 5 flyer, a soundtrack that's been composed literally from scratch. It took us 2 years to get that done, and the composer Mike Roberts did it, and he actually did arrangements for Castlevania, which was like totally amazing. And so you get all of that, and then you get the Volume 2 Prelude, and it comes in a custom corrugated box that will have the logo and all that stuff in it. And when it's shipped, it's shipped securely. And the fact that I have these custom backing boards. Most comics you have to put kind of like 3 and 4 backing boards in there to get them to like not bend. You have one of these in here. Look, not it doesn't bend. It doesn't. It all stays right where it should. Because aside from wanting to give people quality art and story, I never want someone to get a product and it not be the right way or that it's inferior or something happens. And I've been so fortunate with the fan base, aside from the Prelude, which is the only thing that's digital. I'm not in previews. So many things that, it just, Kickstarter, none of that stuff. And I've sold 4,494 copies of Symphonic Versus. So we're getting close to 5,000 physical books that have been sold, and that's a testament to the fans and to the comic shops who took a chance and have been supportive, and uh, and it's just been a really amazing experience. And then there's all this stuff with the TV show that I wish I could talk about, aside from the fact that we were in production until the pandemic, you know, and that shut down the world for everybody. Um, and so there are things that are trying to move again, and we have to just wait for things to get back. But it doesn't mean that things aren't being worked on, and you know, uh, the right people are looking at it, and there's stuff about networks. I wish I could say, but I can't. So we just have to. I have to wait until my bosses at the movie studio say, hey, we can talk about this publicly now. But until then, we just kind of have to wait. But you know, so that's volume one. Volume two is coming. I'm finishing volume three, and volume two and volume three are both 108 pages. So each book is always going to be 100 plus pages. You're always going to get flyers and posters and things with it. The custom backing boards, it will come in the boxes. It just, Symphonic Versus is just like its own entity in the way that it is, in the way that it has to be.
Well, we're getting towards the end of our hour, but I did want to ask you something because you have been so involved in Comic Cons, these personal events that people go to talk to you, see your books, and everything. This past year must have been really, really difficult. How did you pivot?
Um, the funny thing is, I had actually stopped going to shows. Um, Now it's probably been almost 10 years since I went to a con. I just got, because I did them for like almost 20 years straight, and I just got burnt out. It was so much. And I, I think when everything happened, and it was like, okay, no more shows, which I wasn't really going to them, but I had already just been selling stuff off of my website anyway, and so then it was like, okay, now let's adjust that even more to where, we oh, and right, you have the website pulled up, thank you. And that's actually the preview trailer for the TV show that we were allowed to put out. And it doesn't show much. It just, you hear some words, but what's significant is that is actually Adonis's throne room. That is the throne room of the Ninth Symphony. And it's so vast, just a side tour, it's so vast, you could put the Eiffel Tower in there and it still wouldn't touch the ceiling.
Wow.
That's how
And again,
massive it is.
I'm looking at the detail and I'm blown away. I mean, I can't even imagine how much time it takes to put together one panel, much less 100+ page book. Because you
Um,
do the quality that is on your covers is the quality that is inside. And I know that as you do it, people get faster and things, but the amount of detail on a given day, how much time are you spending putting
um,
these layers and these beautiful pieces of art together?
it can it can take 10 days, a week. It depends on what I'm working on. That image of his throne room almost like it crashed my system twice because
It
it was
was like,
so
forget you, Sheng.
yeah, it was so it was just taking up so much memory, and so I had to like get new machines, and so that took a long, and like, and yeah, so you actually, it's, you will see this in like the series and stuff, but that's actually, that's the throne room, but you're only seeing it from that side. So these massive pillars, if you walked and you look between them, there is another wall there that has something completely different on it, and it's so big that when you see Adonis standing in his throne room, he's like that tall, and to these massive structures that are around him.
Mhm. And well, is it okay if we play the trailer?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we can
Oh.
play the preview trailer.
Perfect. Let me get that up here and hold on and watch this.
How far will a man go to bring his beloved back from the dead? This is the epic story of Ximphonic Versus.
And there we go. Hold on a second here. I didn't realize it was in a loop. I was just like, oh, and here we go again.
Yeah.
And we'll watch it over and over again. It's like Groundhog Day.
I can't. The full trailer for the TV series is like 4 minutes long. So
Yeah.
and it's like crazy stuff in there that I wish So we just have to just
It's
wait.
like little teasing bits and pieces of it, of things that are to come. Any I know that it's been in development. Any kind of teaser for us as far as when we might be able to experience this on our television sets?
Not so. It's like there are dates I've been given for certain things, and I can't like. I've been literally given like time frames of windows where people said, "Hey, this and this is going to happen like this between this and this," and I'm like, "Okay," and yet I can't. Like, there's nothing. So all I can say is that for in the meantime, while we're waiting for all of that to like get back on track and then be able to like announce all these other things and where it will be, I I just keep doing the graphic novel in the in the waiting process of that. And I did just real quick wanted to go back to your question that you had about how did I pivot that. I really it was um, making a lot of new connections with comic shops and with readers, and so ultimately that's your lifeblood, and that's what you do is you build these relationships. And I always give comic shops who are thinking about carrying the book, I always give them the prelude as the PDF so they can see, hey, this is actually what I'm doing. And if you're interested, I can send you this, or I can make an exclusive copy, cover for your store. And of course, now it's going to get distribution with Liberty Entertainment, which is very exciting. So I'm very happy about that. That's a lot of great things going on there, and what's funny? This image, there is a significant symbolism to that picture. So what you actually have, so we have Adonis Neos Latreculus. There is Sapphiro Sawir Florentissima. Now, the other character, I won't say his name because I don't want to spoil that, but the woman next to him, that is Harpsichord Harpsis. That's actually her. Uh, the person next to her, I I don't want to, but then you see Concerto, which is Adonis's mentor. The last image, that is Gaius Malfechian Ipetus, and he is the leader of the Shadow Knights. Now, quick question, and this is why I say it's significant, because I always ask people this: what do you think? What do you think the significance of this image is?
4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Nita's looking into it. You know, the first thing that pops into my head is the last three panels here,
Mhm.
the three images, because it's like split. And so it's almost like if you put them together, you would have one face. And it's almost like that dark and light with her in the center, and how does she influence that? That's where my brain went with that, with those three in particular.
Oh, nice. I like that.
Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
where I was going, but I don't know. I
Same
don't know.
thing. Well, I always tell people they're not wrong. You know, people interpret things as they see. That's just like how in life is what we do. But the image in itself, the significance is that Adonis is the only one looking back.
Ah.
Ah,
Uh-huh.
Everybody else is looking forward. So that plays into some of the dichotomy of his situation, of what he can't let go of, his inability to not be free of certain things. And so how can we how can we go forward when we cannot let go of these things that sometimes are things that we don't need, but we're not able to overcome them that way. And so that's the significance of that image, is that he's looking back,
The only
and
one.
the only one looking back. And so, because ultimately, despite all the things going on in the story is ultimately about him having to make a choice, not between right and wrong, but an evil and a greater evil. He has to choose between two evils and then make everything right. But how can you do what's right when you can only do what is wrong? You can only
Mm.
make bad decisions. You can only make worse and more terrible and tragic decisions. And so that is the great gnawing that eats away at his person, at his mind, his and it's actually, if you scroll down just a little, please. Um, that yeah. So oh no, back where the words are,
Hmm.
the words there. Would you like to Would you like to read that?
I could. Get ready to be at the center of the ultimate fantasy adventure, only from Quantum Entanglement Comics. Enter the world of Ximphonic Versus. Ximphonic Versus story centers on Crown Prince Adonis, Neos Latrunculus, heir apparent to the divine throne of the Noctium Imperium. He must embark on a treacherous journey through a world of endless enemies and challenges. As darkness seeks to drive him to the brink of madness, dragging him down into an unending grief. Everything he once knew and believed has been consumed by the depths of darkness itself. Forced to choose between two evils and the women he loves, he seeks to defeat death itself and bring his beloved back from the dead. Coupled with loss and tragedy that will lead to a future no one could have imagined, as romanticized darkness, influenced and beautifully interwoven as Shakespearean lore, setting the stage in this dark, beautiful, and mysteriously shocking tale. This epic series is told as a tale of love, tragedy, and dark ambition. From opera and mobsters to magical beings and gothic inspired metropolises, Ximphonic Verses is breaking the mold on fantasy convention. Grab your copy before the anime series hits TV screens worldwide. Now in production at the Global Genesis Group, with music from world renowned musical composers Two Steps from Hell. The official Symphonic Versus trailer is coming very soon. Graphic novels have an alternate cover option, so be sure to check out each one and select your favorite. All books come with a high gloss softback cover. And we're scrolling down here. There you go. How'd I do?
Oh no, excellent. That was so perfect. Thank you. And the reason why I asked that, because one, it was too small on my screen, and I couldn't, even though I know it's there, but I thought, see, in reading that, see, that's where that's where this story is at. So we're looking at really a man whose life and mind and heart is fractured, and when you're in those situations, what kind of choices are you making? What things are you doing that are pushing you further to this darkness, this by something consuming what you are, as opposed to the other way. But then um, Lady Sephiroth, as she's next to him, see, she is his counterbalance opposite. That is serves such a important and beautiful purpose in the story, and she really does. And she's a powerful warrior, extremely powerful. So it's yeah, I can't wait to for people to be able to see the kind of stuff that she can like.
And I think we've all had those situations where we had to pick between bad and worse. Like what's not going to hurt so bad, and what could be devastating. And I mean that is just that's life, and for you to kind of bring that in and weave it into this epic world and this epic story is just a testament to your love for the craft, and it is true craftsmanship, from story to art. And we hope that we hope that it is well received and you sell out of more books so that you have to order more.
Well, no, thank you for your kind words. I really do appreciate it, and that really is the theme of what it's about. It's a fantasy world with very human things that we can understand, and that's why that image is there with the wording the way it is, and about the significance of him looking back, because see, he's thinking about his wife who has died, and he's trying to bring her back from the dead. Even if you could do such a thing, at what cost does it come? But the reality is that perhaps the things that he needs are right in front of him, maybe, but he's just not seeing it because all he's living for is he it's like he's holding his breath to breathe. It's like he's just living. He's not living. He just is existing in this. His life is like a mausoleum. That's how he just exists. How he just dwells in this great darkness, um, and this madness that seems to just be gnawing away at his very being. And so, uh, if you go down to where the books are,
Mm-hmm.
um, so volume one, it like as it talks about, as the great wars have ended and all these things, it says a dark lord begins to recount the events known as symphonic verses set 5,000 years in the past. So so when the book starts, it doesn't start a way that people might think. It doesn't start in a place that it might seem like it would. But then, as it goes on, and as you read and you see what's happening, and then everything in volume one happens, so that as it talks about where Adonis meets the mysterious and beautiful Sapphirose, everything that happens so that that conversation can take place because it's that significant. And that conversation sets into motion a chain of events that, as it said, a shocking outcome that no one could have imagined. Not these characters. They could not have imagined where these roads would lead them. But this is that stepping stone for these things. And then in volume two, it goes deeper, and then in volume three, it goes deeper, and in volumes four, five, and six, it gets even crazier, and and then it just goes on and on until we get to that finish, that ending, which is cataclysmic, and it really is, and um, I, you know, yeah, well, it just yeah. So that's where because I can't spoil any of that, but in the
Mm-hmm.
series, there's a lot of really thrilling action. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't show it. But as you read through it, you begin to see it. You see these. the action and the fighting abilities of these characters and the powers that they possess, and it, you know, that's a huge part of it. Is really really thrilling action and adventure that transcends the things that you see in like Western style books. Um, but yeah,
So, Xing, as we get ready to say goodbye, and I think you may have alluded to this earlier, for anybody who's new coming into the field of creating comic books and graphic novels, what would be the most important piece of advice you could give to them?
um, the most important things really, um, stay humble, keep your head down, and just work, but really hone your craft, really study and learn about art and color theory and design, and really strive to be as unique unto yourself as you can be. Don't worry about what this person and what she's doing and what they. Don't worry about that. Just focus on what you're doing. Um, Keep your head down. Just remember, there's always someone smarter, more talented, and all we can do is keep learning and keep trying to understand what we're doing. But you have to be willing to take the hits that will come with it because they're going to come. And if you get overnight success, it won't last. For this reason, if someone wants to be a doctor and they go to medical school for one day, and then someone says, "Great, here's your diploma, go be a doctor," and they go to the ER and they try to fix something wrong with someone and they die, that joy of getting that license brings you right up, but the lack of experience causes you to instantly crash and fail. And so you have to be willing to take the hits that come with it, and then you need to get advice from people who really know what they're doing. Just because someone can say, "Oh, I've done 10 Kickstarters," okay, so you've bagged a whole bunch of people for money and you haven't invested your own money. See, when you invest your own money, you can do what you want, and no one can tell you what to do with it. Those are your investors, so they kind of own what you're doing in a way, and so they get to say, "Hey, you know what? I paid for this. This is what I expect out of it." But when you use your own money and deliver a product to someone, um, that in itself is that's what you want to do. But you have to be able to say, "Hey, here is someone who is a true literary expert, or someone who is a true art expert. What can I do to learn, to refine, to keep learning from them so that I can keep improving my craft and not, this kind of bravado that the internet can create." If 50 people told me what I did was great, and if one person says, "Hey, you know what, that actually isn't that correct," they fly off the handle and say, "Oh, you know what, you're selfish and you're a jerk and you don't know what you're talking." See, that's what happens. But by learning, keeping your head down, just doing what you have to do, and you have to be relentless. Relentless. You have to be willing to take every hit that comes with it. Because if you give up, then you really don't want it. But if you want it, you will work hard for it, and you will keep going and going. Excuse me, until you get what you want, and then you set a new goal and you go after that. And that's the way to do it. I mean, it really is.
Well, I would say with 157 rejections under your belt, that's kind of a testament of you walking the walk.
And I've had to live it literally. I mean,
Hmm.
I've had to live it. And what's funny, just one of the things. So um, one of the image bigwigs, like big wigs, after I got my last rejection, he actually responded and he said, "I'm going to tell you something." He's like, "We just feel it's not right for our brand, the way that we do things." And I'm like, "Hey, I still think that's, it's whatever, but okay, I can respect you just being honest." He said, "But I'm going to tell you something. he said, and I still have this email. It's saved. I saved it as a screenshot. He said, "You have achieved something that most of the pros in this industry would give their eye teeth for. So you've already done what most of them are trying to do. So just keep doing it." And so that to me was the first sign that it was like, oh, okay, maybe I don't need to follow that path. Maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do it the way that I believe it should be done. Um, and that's by doing all the things everyone says you can do. People say comics can't look too realistic. Then it's not believable. Comics can't this. You can't that. You can't blah 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 blah. And now I, you know, I have survived all of the obstacles that came before, um, and and things have happened I didn't set out to have happen, but they did, and I never thought they would. But every day I'm just grateful for the opportunities to do the things that I do. But if people want to succeed, if you want to make this be something, you you gotta you gotta suffer through it. There are no shortcuts. They're just on the.
I love that. And it's so true. There are no shortcuts. Learn your craft, everybody. Learn your craft. Xing, we are out of here. Let me put up the card here. For everybody tuning in, thank you. Make sure that you share this out and watch it on the replay. Share it out with your friends. This is episode 39 of Ragin' with Xing. Ximphonic Versus.com/shop. Go there, get the prelude, get an introduction into the book, order the other copies. Episode 3, well, the third issue, I should say, is coming soon. Pre-orders right now, they do sell out. Get your copy while you can. On that note, you guys, thank you for tuning in. Hey, Nita,
Yo,
final words.
throw my dudes.
We're out of here, you guys. Thank you, Shane. We'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot.